practice your layers. So again, if I'm looking here, this would be the lumen. This is the lumen. So here would be your non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Deep to that, right here, lamina propria. Deep to that, a thin layer of muscle, muscularis mucosa. So again, those three together, mucosa. Down here, submucosa. And from here all the way to the bottom of this particular picture, muscularis externa. Yeah, so again, getting those layers really comfortable in your mind, you can just map your way through it. So that was number 4.
Can you repeat again the course of this layer?
Non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, lamina propria, muscularis mucosa. Those three, so from the bottom of muscularis mucosa all the way up to the surface, mucosa. Do the same thing on number 5, just turn to the opposite direction. So here's the lumen, non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium, lamina propria, muscularis mucosa. For all of those, in terms of testing purposes, my question would say, name the layer at the arrow. Name the layer at the arrow. Non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Name the layer at the arrow. Lamina propria. Name the layer at the arrow. Muscularis mucosa. Again, only if I bracketed all three of those together and then I said name the layer, that would be the mucosa. Got to show all three to be mucosa. Down here, name this layer, submucosa. And then from here, all the way to here, muscularis externa. And remember, this is the esophagus, so you're above the diaphragm, so this would be adventitia, not visceral peritoneum. It's adventitia because you're not in the abdominal cavity, you're above the diaphragm. Cool? Okay. One more of the esophagus. This one just has 3 different presentations. They were all good, so I put them all on the list. So up here, here's the lumen. Non-keratinized, stratified, squamous epithelium. Lamina propria. Muscularis mucosa. All 3 of those together, there's your mucosa. Coming below the mucosa, submucosa. And then from here, all the way to the bottom of this picture, muscularis externa. If I could go a little further, what would I have next? Adventitia. And again, you never lose sight. I could just put this up and say, name the organ. Esophagus. It's so easy. I can tell you, test after test. People can name all the layers, and then I'll do something which I think should be an easy question, and I say, name the organ, and people don't know what organ they're in. It doesn't matter that you can name the layers if you don't even know what organ you're in, right? So make sure you remember to recognize organs and not just get lost in the details. Okay? So that was 4, 5, and 6. The other one I wanted you to do today is 12, which again, notice it's labeled here, pylorus. It's labeled pylorus, but if I click on it, it's stomach, right? It's just the pyloric region of the stomach. So again, this would be the lumen up here. This would be the lumen up here. So I get a nice gastric pit that's nice and wide right there. But if I come over a little further, this is also a gastric pit. This one's a nice one right here because I can follow the gastric pit down and see how it splits right there. So it's going into one gastric gland here, going into another gastric gland there. It's unusual to be able to capture that, so don't expect to be able to see that easily on your own glass slides. Okay? So gastric pit, here's another gastric pit, here's another gastric pit. Compared to if I came way down here, there's a gastric gland. So if I said to identify this structure here, gastric gland. Identify this structure here, gastric gland. And what about if I said, name this layer at the arrow right there? Simple columnar epithelium. Simple columnar epithelium. I'm at the surface. I'm at the surface. What if I said to name this layer here? See my arrow? Right here? I'll wiggle it. Right here? Layer. Name that layer. Lamina propria, right? So I've got the layer here, simple columnar epithelium. The layer here, lamina propria. Lamina propria, lamina propria, lamina propria, coming up between the glands and the pits. Name this layer here. Muscularis mucosa. Muscularis mucosa. What have I said? Name the layer from here to the surface. Mucosa. Name this layer. Submucosa. It's just sort of torn apart right through here, but I can see that there's tissue over here. Right? That's artifact, that it's separated like that. That's not how it would actually look. It would look more like this. And then name this layer here. Muscularis externa. If I could follow muscularis externa through oblique, circular, longitudinal, what would I find at the very outside? Visceral peritoneum. What organ am I in? Stomach. That is below the diaphragm, so you have visceral peritoneum. See the difference? Okay. And that was it for today.
And
That's it?
the upper, yeah.
That's it?